as you and your family and loved ones are out and about camping and frolicking in nature, you will probably come across some first aid needs. And so today we're going to talk all about first aid. It's not meant to be comprehensive. This is kind of the top five items that I think you'll come across and hear people complaining about. And we got some little tidbits, some shocking information that maybe you haven't heard before. So yeah, I did say shocking.
It wouldn't be a Health Chat podcast without some shocking information.
Shock and awe, actually.
Shock and awe.
Yeah. So just starting out, we have kind of a background or overview with one recommendation, and actually I'll steal your thunder on that.
Yeah, good.
Is what we find is it's good to be trained for CPR and first aid needs. So there's a lot of community colleges, community trainers for first aid, and this will piggyback into what Dr. Nigh is going to open it up with.
And what I would say about the training and with first aid generally, of course, when we think about first aid and summer injuries, we're not thinking about the big things. We're thinking about bumps and scrapes and those sort of things that we'll definitely be talking about. But training, I think, is great for everybody. In addition to, they sell just little kind of pocket, just handbooks on outdoor emergency trauma medicine. And it doesn't mean you have to be trained as an EMT. It just gives you sequences that you need to go through if somebody breaks a leg or if somebody gets a serious bite, or it just helps to organize thoughts. I think it's a good resource for anybody who's going to be spending much time outside, especially, going on family camping or those sort of things.
Just even on the soccer field or out at the playground as well.
And also, just as a footnote, for anything that actually needs emergency medical care, what is very clear about the success of emergency medicine is that it really depends on how well the care happens before the person gets to the ER. So the outcomes of people who get to the ER are really dependent upon the care that happened before they got there. So the more that people can just become familiar or have the resources available to them to know how to initiate that care prior to an ER, if that's what is needed, it just is going to make everything better.
Share the title of the book that you came up with that.
Yeah, the book actually that I think lays this all out really interesting is titled "What If Medicine Disappeared?" And it's written by a few sociologists who ask themselves that question. Like we say, medicine...
It's a great question.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And they realized that nobody had actually asked whether or not our medical system actually saves lives and makes things better. And so they went through many different fields of medicine and gathered all the information they could to say, well, what would happen if this field of medicine were to just disappear overnight? What impact would that have on the number of people who die and all that? And they found very little impact on most fields of medicine, including primary care and surgery and many other fields of medicine. Very little impact. The one field that they felt it would have a substantial impact is with emergency medicine, because it actually does. You can verify that lives are saved in emergency medicine, and then they note with the caveat that as long as the community care prior to getting to an ER, the person has been taken care of.
So our recommendation: get some good training, because you can save lives that way. The other, just a quick aside on that, was I think it actually found harm for certain.
Yeah, it did.
Specialties.
I won't go into all the details. If anybody is interested in this kind of a question, because, of course, we just hear so much in our field that, well, conventional medicine has this record of success. What about your medicine?
Right.
And what this book showed, it wasn't asking it from a skeptical point of view. It just was looking at what evidence is there that, in fact, people are getting better when they go to conventional physicians.
Docs, yeah.
In all these different fields. And yes, absolutely, there are many where they can document that actually people do worse. And then there are other studies, where hospitals shut down in countries where the doctors go on strike,
right,
and in fact people do better.
Yeah.
Anyway,
funny.
So it's called What If Medicine Disappeared? And it's a fun read. It's a good well written.
All right, now we're going to get into what are you going to experience out there camping or in the park or riding your bikes. We've got, of course, the bumps and bruises. And our favorite remedy, homeopathically, is arnica. And we kind of joke about it because it is the first remedy you give in a lot of, it's kind of the first remedy in a lot of different cases and causes, but definitely for the bumps and the bruises, the traumas, acute traumas, you get hit on your bike or you're in a motor vehicle accident.
Or you worked yourself too hard and your muscles are achy.
Real sore.
Anything that feels achy or bruised.
Yeah. And then if you get a deeper kind of hit that actually bruises your periosteal covering, which is that outer layer on top of the bone, there's a specific remedy for that called ruta. Homeopathics, I think we've talked about them. They come up throughout our podcasts and now our vodcasts. So you can get a lot of information on the web about them. You know, I was really skeptical about homeopathic medicine because there's basically nothing in it. But as my first experience with it, I learned about apis, which is a bee sting remedy.
We'll talk about that.
And I had my wife had a friend over, and she had allergies, and I gave her the apis. I learned about it in first aid homeopathics, and it was remarkable. I mean, it took all of her symptoms away. Now, I'm not claiming that it will always do that, but at that moment I thought, there is something to this, because nothing else, she was on all of the medications and still having a lot of symptoms. So just wanted to put that plug in for homeopathics. They kind of get a bad rap out there, but they are very effective.
So arnica has to be in every toolkit.
Yeah.
There should be,
don't leave home without it.
Around the house, especially if you have kids.
Right.
Arnica is fantastic.
Yeah, you can get it as a cream, you can get it as an internal drop or on a pellet. They're all very effective. Scrapes are the next one. That usually comes with bumps and bruises. Scrapes, in particular, just on care of scrapes, you want to clear out all of the debris, wash it out with good water, maybe a little soapy water. It might burn a little bit, but you want to get all of the little pieces out of it. And then there's a great natural remedy called calendula tincture or succus, which is it's calendula flower in an alcohol base. So you don't want to put that directly on the open scrape, but you can dilute that in water and then do a lavage or wash over top of the skin, and that really helps. It is anti-bacterial, and it's a little bit of a septic, so it will stop bleeding as well. And it really helps the skin heal much faster. Mm-hmm. Other topical things that people get, in particular, the camping and the hiking, are poison ivy, poison oak. Great remedy for that. Rus tox, which is actually poison oak, potentized down to nothing, but it treats the blister itchiness of the skin.
That's RHUS.
Rus
tox. Great for poison ivy and poison oak. Then really, so when you're using homeopathics, it's really it's going by the symptom. And so if anything that feels like a burn on the skin, if it's a rash that feels like a burn, or if it's an actual burn, another good remedy that can be used is cantharis. And these can also be used if let's say it's poison oak, but it feels like a burn. If it feels hot and like a burn, you could use cantharis in that instance as well. So cantharis, anything that feels, so a rash that has a burning sensation to it, or an actual burn, you're around the house and you touch the hot stove somehow and you have a burn, cantharis is a good homeopathic to use in that situation.
Great. And then just a word about burns. Looking at what types of burns people can get. There's chemical burns, there's the electrical burns, and then there's sunburn. Right. All burns are categorized as a first degree, second degree, or third degree. A first degree is just the redness on the skin. Second degree is you actually get a blistering on the skin, and